What's up, everybody? This is Machette Vanhelsing, and this is going to be possibly the shortest recording that I've ever created and the most informative at the same time. So let's get all of this out of the way. All right? Okay, so you know that I have this thing for speaking in plain English and using common sense and logic, right? So let's cover what everybody is looking for. And I don't care how much money you have, what kind of car you got, how big your crib is, what kind of job you got, whether you're broke or rich. You need to hear what I'm about to say. All right? So now, without getting into all the details, because most of you have been following me already. And if you haven't, just go to my website, MachetteVanHelsing.com, catch up. Right? Okay. Let's get into it. Now, as far as the abuses, the control, the modern day slavery, you know, um, the highway robbery of the people, right? Um, there's a way to get out of this, okay? And I know that because of all the information on the internet and YouTube and on Facebook and all these places, that there's a lot of confusion, and it makes it seem like it's really complicated and difficult and even risky, right? To try to get out of this and overcome. But I'm here to tell you that that's not true. All right. Now, the first thing I want to say is that this is God's game. It looks like evil is running things and evil is, running rampant right on the planet, right? But this is just not true. It's not true because if God wasn't in charge, evil would have destroyed everything already. Things would be much, much worse than they are right now if evil were able to have their way. Okay? Based on that fact, we know that they have limitations. There are certain things that they can't do, and there are things that they were allowed to do. That is because they are here to test us, to see who's going to overcome. That's why I say this is God's game. So let's move forward. First, we talk about the name. All the time you hear this, the name, right? All caps, the name, straw man, right? Right? Look, it's very simple. Here's what's going on. We are children of God when we arrive. That's what we are, right? That's our status when we get here. What happens is that the United States is a company, a corporation. I know this because they are incorporated with the same law firm as one of the corporations that I run. Okay? The United States is a corporation. Okay. America is a country. It's the United States of America, not the United States is America. Okay? So, here's what happened. They took the child of God and they attached an entity to it. This is what happened. They attached an entity to the child. And so, what that does, and it's a real entity, it's an actual entity. If you look up the word egregore, you will find that corporations are actually entities. I'm not going to get into that in this conversation. I said this would be short, right? Now, attaching an entity to a man, woman, or child in my profession is called possession. Okay, people are possessed because they have an entity attached to them, and that entity, for the most part, controls most of their lives, and they don't understand that either. But I'm explaining it to you now. You could go on my website, get deprogrammed, right, and catch up. Okay, so now to solve this problem, which is the cause of all of this debt and all these court issues, and people being in this financial box that they can't get out of. All right, I'm gonna explain how to get out of all of this. First of all, because of what happened with the attachment of the entity to the man, woman, or child, this puts us into the jurisdiction of the corporation, right? Evil runs these corporations. That is one of the things that evil has been allowed to do. Okay? All right. So now, what it is that you need to detach the entity from yourself, right? So, in order to detach the entity from yourself, it is required to be baptized. Now, when I say baptized, when I say the word baptized or baptism, I need you to understand ahead of time that I'm talking about a non-religious baptism. It has nothing to do with religion. What you're doing is you're changing sides, right? So all you're doing is making a promise to God that you are joining his team, right? And there's science, there's spiritual science in water, okay? Not going to get into how deep water is, but baptism is a very important step. Now, as far as equity court and courts are concerned, and equity and all that, and receiving justice, what they expect of you is to have chosen sides, you see. Um, and because of this attachment, we're all on the wrong side by default. We're all on evil side by default, okay, because of this possession, right? So what equity court expects of us, if we know what we're doing, and this is why people get psych evaluations or they get ignored, right? Is because what they expect of you is you're gonna claim to be, a living, breathing man of God and a child of God, and you're no nobody can tell you what to do. You're free. You're claiming all of these things, right? You're claiming all these things, but you have to be able to prove it. You're in court, man. It's a paper game. So, you need evidence, you need proof, right? Um, the only way to prove this and what they expect of everyone is to be baptized and or ordained, right? When I say this, I mean by a free church. Google free church. You want to go on that journey, go ahead. If you don't understand what I mean when I say free church, look it up. Anything that I say that you don't get, look it up, right? Okay. So, and that's the first thing you have to do. What this does is it takes you out of the United States jurisdiction. What I have found was that when you look on the IRS website and you type the word religion, which in commerce, they consider people's beliefs as their religion, right? I don't want to get into that, but if you go to the IRS website and you type the word religion, you will see that the only way to opt out, the only way to be exempt from taxation is one's religious beliefs, right? Now, I can also get into the fact that the system exists and is real to people because they believe in it. That's where the system gets power from, because people believe in it. Okay? So when you don't believe in it anymore, you're not under its jurisdiction. It's not real to you. Right? Okay. Now, um, now as far as the game is concerned, you're gonna need proof that you changed sides. That would be the baptismal certificate. The baptismal certificate, I've said a million times, counters and is the opposite of the birth certificate. One is evidence of life, one is evidence of death. Okay. What opens the doors of equity is error or mistake. It is your responsibility to correct this mistake. All right. The mistake is the attachment of the entity to you, right? The mistake is them presuming and assuming that you are a person, or that you think you are a person, the person being the entity or corporation, right? So let me help people with this before I confuse anybody. The person is the straw man, right? So person, straw man, corporation, entity, those are, they're all the same thing. Okay. All right. So now, when you introduce this mistake that has been made, it is up to you to correct it. Correcting that mistake is baptism and or ordination. I have experience with this in court, telling you that it is real and true. That is what they expect. That's what they expect from you. And so that is the first step. And what I found is that, in baptism and or ordination, right? Or the change, the simply changing your beliefs, right? Okay. Um, what this does is it detaches the entity from you. So now you are separate from the entity, right? Because now you cannot be considered as the person. You check the Bible, God is no respecter of persons. It's really wild that that's in there, but it is. And how that works, well, sorry for, if the audio just changed on you, right? But how that works is now you're not possessed anymore, right? You have been redeemed. It's redemption, deliverance, somewhat of an exorcism when this happens, right? So, what I've done was years ago, I created a free church. I founded a free church because I wanted the ability to be able to do this for people, because I couldn't find a free church anywhere. So I was wondering how people were going to be able to do this without there being a free church available to them, right? So I created the free church, and and that gave me the power and authority and ability to do this for people, right? And provide baptismal certificates, ordination, and yes, I know that my class is waiting for. We have people that we have to send out baptismal certificates to, uh, because this is a very important step to take. All right. Uh, Once you take this step, now you're responsible for doing something with the entity. Right. Now there are, I would say, two choices. I would say there are two choices. You could abandon the entity completely, right? Or you can convert the entity from a negative, dead entity to a positive, living entity, right? Now, let me remember, I said the word entity, corporation, person, straw man, they're all the same thing. So, what you're doing is you're taking your name in all capital letters and you're converting it into a different type of entity. Now, This is a very important step also. Why? Because the question arises, okay, once I'm baptized, ordained, I don't have anything to do with the system and commerce and all of that. I'm exempt, I'm immune, First Amendment, right? But how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to make money? How am I going to, right? Okay, so the answer to that question, to those questions, is this. You convert the name, the corporation, the entity, into a different entity type, right? The type of entity that is also immune, right? Right? Which is also outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. I'm going to explain why in a minute. Okay. Right? And once you do that, it changes your status in the public. Now, mind you, we're talking about the public and the private here. So the first move that you made in baptism and or ordination takes you out of the man, woman, or child, out of the public and into the private now. Okay? So the man, woman, or child, right, being baptized and or ordained is now in the private. Okay? So this takes you out of their jurisdiction. All right? Now, in the conversion or creation of, and I'll get into that in a second too, in the conversion of the entity, the person, the name, in all caps, in converting that into a different entity type, that then changes the status of that entity, right? Now, I'll explain something very important here also. What happens is, right, this entity has been, okay, originally the entity was a corporation under the, a state corporation, right? But what happened was they converted they converted the name into a 14th Amendment federal citizen, right? So as far as citizenship is concerned, let's talk citizenship here too. Let's get into that. When you're baptized and or ordained, you change citizenship, right? You are now a citizen of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. You're a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. Okay? Now, the corporation, right? Right? The problem that you're having, the problem that we were all, because I'm not having that problem anymore. There's some people that are not having that problem. But what people originally have a problem with, right, is the fact that this all capital letter name was turned into a federal citizen, right? Now, there's a lot of, information that, I'm about to put out on that, but basically what that means is a federal citizen is actually an employee, right? Right? Of the corporation. That's what that means. So federal citizen means employee of the United States Incorporated or employee of whatever corporation it is. Okay? Right? You're a citizen of that corporation, right? That's what that means. That's what federal citizen means, right? Okay. That's where the slavery comes in at. Okay. So in people thinking that they're the person and that all capital letter name is them, this is a method of control. That's where the slavery comes in. That's how they're able to have authority over everybody, right? Is because of this all capital letter name, because of this entity that is attached to you. So, in converting this entity into a different entity type, what you're doing is you're changing the person, you're changing the straw man, you're changing the all capital letter name, you're changing the entity from a federal citizen to a state citizen. Now, let me say with that, let me translate, right? Federal citizen is an employee. A state citizen is an employer. right? So what you're doing is you're converting the entity from a worker to a boss. Listen to what I'm saying, right? You're converting the entity from a worker to a boss, from an employee to a corporation. All right. Now, please listen to what I'm saying, right? In being a corporation and converting it into a corporation, that corporation is now a state citizen simply because a corporation cannot be an employee of another corporation. It can only be contracted with business to business, right? So there's no such thing as the person now being a slave or 14th Amendment citizen because you converted it into a corporation, right? Now, being that they presume and assume that you are the person, right? And being that it's see in the public is the realm of entities, right? That's where entities interact, right? So men, women, and children have no business doing business in the public. It is only entities that can do business with each other in the public. That is why people have so much trouble out there in the public trying to personally make it or be successful. The system was not designed for federal citizens to be successful. It was not designed for slaves to make it, you see, right? Now, mind you, let's talk about this word citizen. Once you are baptized and or ordained, you are no longer a citizen of the United States or the company or the state. You're not a federal citizen, you're not a state citizen. You are a citizen of the kingdom of heaven. If you want to use the word citizen at all, because you can say you're not a citizen at all. You can say that. But your citizenship is in heaven. There's no denying that. It's common sense and logic. Okay? Heaven, the heavens just means space. That's where you are. On earth in space. Right? Anyway, right? Um, so now, in making this conversion from federal citizen to state citizen, it provides you with the same immunities. This is going to be interesting for you, for everybody. Look up corporate personhood, right? The interesting thing about corporate personhood is that once this is done, right? Right now, mind you, you've been baptized and or ordained, so you are now a child of God under God's authority, citizen in the kingdom of heaven, right? A new creature, right? Right? Okay? That gives you new authority and new power. So now you, as a child of God, now converted this negative dead entity into a positive one. Okay? Right? Because it is controlled by you. You converted it. There are very deep spiritual things going on here. Okay? Because I said look up the word egregore, because egregores are actually entities. An entity is an entity, right? So what you're doing is you're converting this entity from bad to good, right? To make it real simple. Okay? Now, being that you're under God's authority, the entity that you converted and now control is also under God's jurisdiction, right? Which means that entity is now outside of the jurisdiction of the United States because it is on equal standing ground to the United States because the United States is a corporation. Your entity is now a corporation too. Right. Okay. Now, I'm going to explain what this equation equals after I'm finished explaining these three important things that have to be done. Because that's my process. Fuck it, I'll call it my process. All right. So yeah, this is my process. This is what I came up with, right? Three steps to getting out of this and becoming wealthy and successful, providing for your family, protecting your assets. This is my process. Screw what everybody's talking about, because I actually went through all of this and I have experience. I have friends, peers, students who have experience. And I'm telling you, this is how it's done. So, and also because this is how the wealthy do it. This is how the elite do it. I'm telling you what they do. This is what they do, right? Now, mind you, their religion might be Satanism, right? But it's still their beliefs. So they do start off with changing their beliefs, or letting you know it starts with your beliefs, regardless what your beliefs are. Okay, right? Okay, all right. I'm just saying this is a game that we're playing, and you have to choose sides. So I'm telling you how our side does it. This is how you get out of it, right? Because those that believe in evil, they don't mind being under the jurisdiction of evil, right? They just want to be powerful and rich, right? So the first step that we take is not really a concern to them, right? Unless they want to be grandmasters, or right. So I'm not gonna get into that. But right, in doing this, you converted the negative entity into a positive one, right? Now that entity is protected by the First Amendment, just like a baptized and or ordained man, woman, or child is protected, right? Immune, okay? Diplomatic immunity, immunity, you know, um, it's just a jurisdictional change. They have no power over you anymore at that point. And once you convert the entity, they have no power over that entity either. Okay? That's why I combined the steps that I combined, right? Because if you're baptized and or ordained, you're immune, right? You're outside of their jurisdiction, right? Okay. Now, when you convert the entity from negative to positive, that entity is outside of their jurisdiction, immune, right? Okay. Now, thirdly, what I teach and what I advise is the creation of private trust. Why? For the protection of everything you own, and the ability to set up your own kingdom, the ability to do business privately in the private sector, the ability to take all of your assets and everything that you accumulated in the public and transfer it into the private, right? See, now let me explain. Here's what you did. You took yourself out of the public and went into the private by changing your beliefs, right? Improving it through baptism and or ordination, right? The entity you would like to stay in the public. You don't want to take the entity into the private. The entity, you need the entity to operate in the public for you. You have to understand your hands are not getting dirty anymore. You separated yourself from the entity, and now the entity is doing business with other businesses in the public, right? You need that entity to do that, because now everything is in your entity name. You don't have to do anything in your name anymore. You can do everything in the business name. The corporation, the entity, the person, the straw man. You've converted it into a business now. You see? And now everything can be done in the business name. Okay? Now, so you convert the entity from negative to positive so that you can control it, and so that it's outside of the jurisdiction of the United States, and so that you can operate in the public safely, right? Okay. The creation of private trust, which is also an entity, but it's a private entity that was created by you in the private. Okay, so there was no need to convert it, because it was created pure by a child of God, you, right? So the private trust is automatically by default positive. Okay? Now, the private trust is created to operate in the private for you. You see? Okay, so whatever it is that you personally want to do, you can do it now, Because in the public, the entity, the business is covering you, right? The corporation is covering you, right? And in the private trust is covering you. You yourself are separate from all of this, but control both entities, right? Okay, that's what position you put yourself in using my process, right? So first, you is the baptism and or ordination, and some people don't have to choose that. Some people don't want to get involved with that, so all they start with step two, and they convert the corporation, which changes their status, which is elite status, which is now let me explain that too, right? In converting the corporation, this is what wealthy people do. This is what famous athletes and artists and lawyers, doctors, CPAs, this is what they all do. And this is why they're treated the way they're treated when they go to hotels and when they go to get a car and when they go to get a house and when they're in a restaurant. The reason why they're treated that way is because they are businesses. They are considered as businesses, right? So everything is corporate, right? Under a corporate account, corporate expense account, right? So they get treated differently out there. The reason why the average individual gets treated like crap is because you are a federal citizen, a slave. You are not a boss, you are a worker, right? That's the problem. And so I'm teaching people how to correct these things. My process is these three steps. When you take these three steps, you'll be on the same level as the elite. It's all up to you what you do with it, and how far you take it, right? And I guess that depends on your intent, your plans, your goals, your dreams, right? And so I put this together in what is called a preferred status pack, right? And on my website, I give you the ability to take things further, right? You want to create a private trust, you want to set up a family trust, a business trust, um, you want to set up your own church, you want to start, you have some land, and you want to set up your own community. So I made ways for people to uh, expand on this process. You can take it further. You want to get into real estate, start fixing up a community and buying and selling houses. I made sure that from the level of being completely broke, because when you get to my website, I give you 2 free ebooks on how to get money now, today, right? And so from the point of having zero to the point of being a millionaire, I covered on my website. I give people on my website the ability to start and go all the way, right? So no matter what level you're on, I can help you. Just go to my website and take a look. www.MachetteVanHelsing.com. That's machete with 2 T's, VanHelsing.com. You can communicate with me there. We can chat. You can add me on Facebook. I don't know. But listen, this is how you become free. This is how you become wealthy. This is how you do what they're doing. This is how they're doing it. They don't tell anybody, but I'm telling you how they did it. And yes, I explained it in plain English and common sense, right? Right, and logic, but there are details. That's what my website is for. You want to learn what all of this is about? Go to the website and read. Go to Google, Google it, right? My packages provide you with everything that you need to do everything that I just said. And I consult you. So I help people step by step through all of this. Just contact me, send me a message, email me, call me. You know what I mean? So that's what my process is, right? And I'm not even going to get into what everybody else is doing out there. I'll just say that the things that these people are promoting are completely useless until you do these three things that I just said. People are using the wrong entity or using the entity with the wrong status to do these things, is why they're failing. They're using the wrong trust to do these things, so they're failing. They're not choosing sides and changing sides from evil to good, is why they're failing. Okay? Listen, the 3 steps that I just presented to you are you can go to any lawyer, those three things, those three steps, each one of those three steps is protected by the First Amendment, the Bible, you are immune. All of three steps are outside of the jurisdiction of the United States. I don't know how much more free people want to be. I mean, people talk about trust, trust, trust. I have a trust. People talk about I have a business. I have a business. People talk about I'm free. I'm not. I'm under my own jurisdiction. Yeah, I hear you, but they're all wrong. They're not talking right. They don't know what they're talking about. Right? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So anyway, I told you it was going to be short. I'm done. Right? Go to the website. I'll probably put a link. I always do. Click the link and get out of this mess and go get money and be happy. Provide for your family. Go some. I mean, come on. It's not that hard. And that's why evil laughs at everybody because they were looking at everybody jumping through hoops and taking only going to court and trying to sue him and put a lien on this it's all stupid. They're laughing at you. It's not that hard. I just explained simply what you got to do to get out of it. I don't care what your problem is. Do those three things, you won't have those problems. Seriously. So I'm out. Till next time.